Hello, welcome to the You Heard It Here First podcast. We're back after a long time, and we have a lot of news to cover, transitioning from the off season of many sports into pretty much the beginning of the season so far. The Premier League's been going on for a month. Basketball season's nearly about to start, so we have a lot to talk about today. I'd like to introduce my regulars here, Vineeth and Ishan. They'd like to say a few words.
Hi, my name is Sean, as I've been introduced earlier, and I love to talk about the Premier League and the NBA
Cool.
and occasional football.
And I'm Vinay, and me and Ishan love to debate the NBA, the NFL, and any sport really. So this podcast is a great, I guess, avenue for us to discuss and put our opinions out there, and for the people who like discussing it, interact with us and stuff. So we all of us really excited. Can't wait to have regular episodes from that.
Absolutely. So, we want to start off today's podcast with a bang. Recently, on October 14th, LeBron James was found. Well, I guess it's better to give some context to what happened. So, obviously, the Houston Rockets GM, Daryl Morey, was found tweeting about his support towards the protesters in Hong Kong regarding the current political situation in the Chinese area. So, with this in mind, how do you think that the NBA handled this, first of all, before we talk about LeBron?
And I just want to say, I think what Daryl Morey did was really good. I think it was the right thing to do for a GM or for person in his position of power to get his opinions out there, especially on social justice issues.
Absolutely.
But I, for one, was extremely, and I can't reiterate enough, extremely disappointed in the NBA, in Adam Silver, and all of the owners and the teams in general were backing out and not supporting Daryl Morey, throwing him under the bus, and actually sucking up to China's dirty politics, and how the NBA can stand up to social justice issues in the US, which again I think is a very good thing for a league to do that. But they cannot have a double standard of not supporting similar humanitarian issues across the globe, especially when it's China, which is doing it for many, many years in a very egregious way. So I think for the money, and obviously merchandise deals, TV deals, and I'm not denying the fact it's a lot of money. And even though we saw it it cost the NBA money, cost the NBA TV deals. So there are repercussions, but you have to take a stand. And I expect not for them not to be a double standard, but to be consistent throughout. And we'll come back to LeBron's once we hear the shot stop. But that's I just want to put that as initial thoughts.
Okay, absolutely.
So, in my opinion, I think Daryl Morey, his intention was right. I think he represented not only the Houston Rockets and what it means, but probably what the beats in the NBA. So, in my opinion, I believe that Daryl Morey had the right to express his own opinion, and he had the right to express what not only probably he believes or what the Houston Rockets believe, but what the culture of the United States is said to be and what the US believes in, which is a right to freedom of expression and right to say what you want, and which is probably the opposite of what the Chinese government tends to believe, right? The US and China, they have common and similar interests, especially when it comes to economic policy. However, they have very different values. So that's the fundamental basis of it. I think that the job of Daryl Morey was, okay, you kind of compromised the NBA when you came and put that tweet out. Now you can say it was a matter of personal opinion and it wasn't a matter of what the organization believes in. But when you work in sports, and whatever you put out there, it kind of represents what your organization and your team believes in, especially when your team drafted the first ever Chinese player in the NBA.
I mean, but he did say sorry and he did delete the tweet in 3 hours. So,
but I think the point that he's making is that, despite when you belong to an organization, especially in the sports industry, and most of the time even though you might be expressing your personal opinion, the consequences of you like expressing whatever it is that you firmly believe in are sort of seem to be a representation of what the organization also believes in, because you might be the face of the franchise, or in this case it's more the general manager, so a person of power within the Houston Rockets expressing some sort of political opinion sort of results in a situation where the NBA, like, they can't make their business matters political to an extent that it costs them financially, but at the same time, when you're going to completely, disregard one of the employees of an organization that you run as a franchise, then that causes like internal issues as well. So it's more of like a lose-lose situation for the NBA when someone comes out and expresses something like that.
Yeah,
I agree with both of you in that he Taramori didn't consider the ramifications of the tweet, and there's a monetary loss to the association and Chinese enterprises which cover the NBA. But like my issue and my contention is that the NBA, and in specific now bringing it up LeBron James, should not have a double standard. Oh, LeBron is this know-it-all social justice personality in the US who fights for social issues, stands up to the president of the United States of America. But then when it comes to China, he immediately, and I quote, he says, I do not believe there was any considerations to the consequences and ramifications of his tweet, and he's not discussing the substance. That seems more like a cop-out response instead of addressing whether he, and I feel like within that statement he could have possibly given
Right.
some
And like
justification.
before you go ahead with like your analysis, I just want to be able to read out the tweet for everybody here. So this was tweeted by LeBron James on 14th October 2019. This is exactly what he said. Quote, "Let me clear up the confusion. I do not believe there was any consideration for the consequences and ramifications of the tweet. I'm not discussing the substance. Others can talk about that," unquote. So what do you think about the way that, like, the message that LeBron intended to say through this?
I think obviously LeBron is his intentions, or like what he's trying to say is, he, like, even in the interview which he gave to the American Post once he came back, was he thinks Daryl Morey didn't consider the ramifications, and like he's not actually addressing matter or the substance of whether he believes the Hong Kong supporters or he supports the Chinese government at all. And I think, or at least that's my biggest problem with the entire situation. Should give his opinions, and okay, like if he's like, it's one thing to say yeah he shouldn't have done it then, but this is an opinion. There's a completely other thing to say yeah he shouldn't have done it and not give a personal opinion. So he can obviously
Mm-hmm.
consider the Chinese audience, and he can say yeah I love my Chinese supporters, and especially because he has a movie coming out, so he needs a Chinese audience to like him. I get all that, but I just feel like he should have given his opinion. I know it's not like his statement and he doesn't need to do anything, but he's basically the
Like
voice of the
like we can
opinion.
be like 80% sure that LeBron's social media manager, or like probably the Lakers social media manager, his agent probably told him to come out and say this.
And
I
I'm
would.
not. Let's
You
see,
would be
but the thing is, he is basically the voice, or like the around the world, and like he takes a stance in the US, expecting to be consistent internationally as well.
Right. He's sort of like the face of, like, I mean, we call him the face of the NBA, but when you look at it internationally, he's actually the face of basketball.
He makes the most money. He has the biggest shoe
I
deals.
have like
Um,
hello. So when it comes to the LeBron James part of his involvement with the Hong Kong government, now I understand his point. His message to me seemed like more of a shot at Daryl Morey when it came to by saying, could this tweet not have waited for any, like, could this tweet not have waited when you have your NBA players in China? Like, you could have. I think his perspective. I think his side of the argument is, look, we could have been somewhat compromised, and you never know what can happen in foreign land if you say anything that is somewhat controversial. Now, he is somewhat wrong because this is kind of hypocritical on his part
Mm-hmm.
to say, oh, this is wrong on part of Daryl Morey when LeBron James has personally come out and condemned and he has condemned the president of the United States and called President Donald Trump a bum.
Okay, so
That's what I believe.
that's actually an interesting statement to me because the way I look at LeBron James's hypocrisy in this situation is that he's been outspoken against Trump. He says that Trump is not for black people. He says that he's not one for the minorities. But at the same time, he's going to support a country who actively suppresses a minority population in the people of Hong Kong, who are murdering them, who are violating their human rights and abusing them. And LeBron James, he's a multimillionaire. He's part of the 1% of America. And for him to sit over there and quote unquote on his tweet, he specifically said that others can talk about that. He said he's not discussing the substance, others can talk about that. For him to refer to about that, which is literally the suppression of human rights, in such an ignorant tone for me, is something that's really disrespectful from LeBron James. And I think, frankly, he deserves the hate that he's getting. And I think that he should clear this up later.
It pissed me off more, and Ishan alluded to it. He said how the NBA teams were in China playing game, and next tweet he quotes, he says, "My team and his league just went through a different league." But what about the supporters fighting for their lives?
Exactly.
There is a consideration for their lives. And obviously I get it. NBA player safety is paramount interest to the NBA. The safety wasn't even threatened, so he's kind of exaggerating having to not take pictures with his fans because the Chinese government won't allow it.
Yeah.
Compared to the Chinese government actively killing and suppressing protesters in Hong Kong fighting for their human rights. So I think the entire situation LeBron kept thinking for himself, his league, his money is very important because he's actually made money in the US and improved his brand image by supporting the Donald Trump government. I think the entire thing is I think I can summarize all three of us because we've all one statement. He should have been consistent in his approaches to social issues, and he should have probably just given some of his opinions on the entire thing. But we get where he's coming from.
Or LeBron could have basically just said, "Okay, I have no comment for it now. My knowledge on this
exactly
something like what Steve Kerr did."
Yeah, exactly. Steve Kerr
do something like what Steve Kerr did. If not, just say, okay, I'm not well informed right now. I will come out later and speak of this issue. And my one question to Darren, and the other question that should be asked is, what does the NBA do now? Because you've pulled out all the games in China. Now the preseason's kind of over. The league is going to start in a week. So you now you find yourselves in a dilemma where you kind of have to question whether. And the funny part is, Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, came out and said after the tweet was put out, "We are not a political organization."
And in fact, LeBron actually came out and in fact I quote him on this: "Injustice suffers a threat to justice everywhere," which I find absolutely. In fact, I quote him again. I vividly remember in the press conference he said, "Yeah, we do all have speech, but there are some negative ramifications to it," which again very ignorant on behalf of LeBron because he doesn't consider the ramification, the seriousness, and how grave a situation the people in Hong Kong are facing.
Okay, I think with that being said, we can draw it down to the fact that these days sports has become political, whether we like it or not. Just the way that sponsorship deals work, just the way that business works in general. We have no choice.
And how big and invisible the athletes have become due to social media.
Exactly. I mean,
I have one question.
Yeah.
Does Daryl Morey get fired for this?
Well, absolutely not.
I don't think he does.
If Daryl Morey gets fired for this, it sets a very slippery slope down which the NBA has to traverse, which I don't necessarily think is good for the business or the moments that the NBA and NBA players are trying to solve in America.
No, because the thought of this just occurred to me because I thought, now look, the NBA has a ton of business in China, and the largest fan base of any ball club in China is of the Houston Rockets, not of the Lakers, not of the Warriors. It's for the Houston Rockets, just because Yao Ming played for their franchise. But my real question is, if the NBA is really that concerned about making money and about how they should appease to China, they should really consider firing Morey. And
Adam
And
Silver gave a statement saying they aren't going to fire him because every individual working for the NBA has their own
I
policies.
don't want to get political here, but if they do fire a general manager of a basketball team for expressing his First Amendment, then I feel that's a failure on America, not just the
that's
NBA.
true. That's true.
So
That's very
I
true.
mean, with that being said, we've had enough of a talk about basketball. The season is starting in about a week. We got a lot more to discuss about then, but for now, I want to introduce our guest onto this show, Pravath. If you could just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Pravath and I like football.
Yeah, I mean you do like football. Yeah, we got a Liverpool fan in here, but we're not talking about Liverpool today. Today we're going to be talking about Man United and the Spurs.
And just before we get too far into it, I have to confess I am a Man U fan, so this hurts. It hurts at a very deep level. But we'll get to
Yeah,
it.
well, Liverpool fan speaking here, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I can
FIFA
tell
is
you.
undefeated, perfect record.
We're relaxing too. All right, Chelsea's fine.
Woohoo!
And before, just latest news report, David De Gea is also injured, so he's not playing the Liverpool game.
Yeah.
Probably not playing the Liverpool game.
That's
So like, the wounds just keep getting deeper, and
Mhm.
who I finish.
It's a wild season. It's a wild season so far for sure.
I think Ole might have to go after the end of the season, but before we get into the topic, let's start.
Before that, I just want to read out the table to everyone. And since I said that we're going to be talking about United and the Spurs, I want to highlight the fact that Man United are currently 12th.
2 points out of relegation.
They're 12th place.
Manchester United we're talking about.
Yeah, Tottenham only have 2 points more than United and are in 9th place in the Premier League. These are both consistent top 6 teams. What's happening this season to them, Prabha?
Well, I mean, it's just I've said it since Ole got the wheel. I mean, he isn't a tactical manager. Like the PSG upset was a one-off. He wasn't going to be able to sustain that kind of the kind of positive results ever for as long as however long he signed his contract for. And I think Glazers and Woodward made a huge mistake by signing him to a permanent contract based off that one PSG result. It was stupid decision. They should have thought more about it.
Do you think they give him a chance this season, or do you think they fire him like midwinter?
They'll have to. They won't fire him midwinter. They'll basically let him go after.
I think the problem with Manchester United franchise, and I can like go on this for days because it's hurt for the past 6 years. And so one of the problems is the team on the field is paying for the mistakes that the board and specifically Woodward and the Glazers have made. Because this is the main problem. There's no consistency. Managers, I know it's football and there are more than 2 bad seasons you tend to get fired. But those so essentially, the Man United team on the field for the mistakes that Woodward and the Glazers made all those years go by. They haven't had consistency. I know it's football and you can't keep managers for more than 2 to 3 losing seasons in a club with the caliber of Manchester United. But like the problem is they fired Louis Van Gaal as soon as he won the FA Cup. Jose Mourinho, I know he had a back in the season. I know it's like a joke or whatever, but like he was stringing together some decent results. We were competitive. We did finish second on one of his years, and I think Ole was a complete fluke. All he did was open the range for Rashford, for Lingard, and Pogba. And they just showed their talent in the first like 6-7 games, and then the PSG game. And after that, the talent dried off because only that much talent can do because the Premier League itself is so freaking talented. And so you need to have a system, you need to have a game plan, which Ole does not have. And I think Ole is the wrong manager for the wrong team. And I think Gary Neville came out and said, and can I just say Ole spent 200 million having Maguire, Aaron Van Bus,
Probably
that would change.
Probably one of the worst transfer decisions this market. Man United spending so much on their defense, and that's been one of their drawbacks this season, I feel.
Can I say, when you have such bad offense in terms of getting shots on goal, such bad upfront game, why do you not go out and buy a top tier striker? And how do you draw in the Europa League to AZ Alkmaar? Like, how is it Alkmaar? I don't know how to say the damn team's name.
Yeah.
Like, I have one question. Like, does this make Jose Mourinho look like a god?
It
Because
does. It does.
because Jose Mourinho the entire time the media just
Look, there's nothing to look about Jose Mourinho, all right? He was a god. It's just that those few years, those 2.5 years that he was at United, just sort of
Yeah, I
tarnished.
mean, he also said in one after he got fired, like what he achieved with the United team was an overachievement, and everyone laughed at him because that's when Ole was doing well, and now look at what's happening now. Ole is doing worse than Mourinho ever did.
Of course.
Can I just say one last thing? In the last 6 years, we've had 3 of our worst starts we had in Manchester United history. I mean, if it doesn't get worse than that, I don't know what does.
It doesn't. It really can't.
The one question that like they let go of Romelu Lukaku and they didn't replace him with anybody. They let
Exactly.
Sanchez go to Inter. I think they loaned Sanchez out to Inter Milan for what? What are you getting? There is no veteran on this team. Probably Juan Mata is, but like you need someone up front that can score goals consistently. We've seen Rashford. Rashford started when Van Gaal was a manager. So that's 15, 16. That's it's been almost this is what his 5th year in the league now. You should
Yeah, and he's still a young player, man.
Yeah.
and he's still a young player now. He's 21, yeah, but after 5 years, you need to kind of show that I can have the ability to score goals consistently, and they don't have that.
He's not.
I-
He's not a consistent goal scorer.
To forget about goal, we should think about getting a shot at target.
That's,
Yeah, I mean, you guys like Man United just doesn't have the people who can take those shots. Like they have in Mata, they have a good creative person, someone who can make the chances, but they
How
just
about-
don't have anyone who can take those chances and like actually try and score something. They just have Rashford and Lingard who miss chances every time. Greenwood's too inexperienced. You lost Lukaku because he didn't fit how Ole wanted to play.
I guess Daniel James has been your only positive this entire season, which is
But
kind of
I think
sad.
I think what's more interesting is the fact that the Spurs are only 2 points above United, considering the fact that they have a very solid manager who managed it by 50 million in Pochettino, and Harry Kane. I don't know. I guess he's just not there yet. But
That's the thing about the Spurs for me right now is that I don't think their mid lane is as unified as it used to be. They definitely need to get rid of Ericsson, in my opinion.
yeah, he's
And
lost
Ericsson
it.
should just go. They need to get value for Ericsson. Like Tottenham's are one team where like they look stable, but like the kind of changes that they really need is just not there. Like you need like Harry Kane's great, Dele Alli's great, Christian Eriksen, they're great. They've been phenomenal for the past 3-4 years, but they've really lost control of what has happened this time around. Because I think not for them the expectations are not just making it into the top 4. It's title. Because after constantly like getting into the top 4, the expectations for Tottenham, especially with the new stadium being built, there's already a new sense of there's new energy. They left Wembley, I believe, right? They're now at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So that means they have new energy. The fans are excited. This means it's a new era. But if you're underachieving by being mid-table, now it's probably early in the season. But if Harry Kane is struggling, Dele Alli is also not doing that great, and Ericsson wanted out before the summer started, and you didn't get rid of him to get any value, then that kind of shows that you're going to struggle midway through. They're probably going to have to let go.
I mean, he's in the prime of his career, so if they sell him now, they'll get a pretty good value for what he's worth.
Yeah, but his contract runs out this summer, like next summer.
That's true. So
2020.
they're not
So
going to be able to.
either he leaves for like really cheap Jan, or he can just wait to let his contract expire and go for free. Either way, Spurs have lost out on a lot of money.
That's true, and there's transfer window and activities a huge yeah, you get the memes about the Spurs not buying any players, not selling any players, but once you reflect on it in like a season like this where they're actually screwed, you realize like how that's actually like kind of screw them over.
Does anybody know the owner of the Spurs? Look, it's like this guy. Like, no offense to Tottenham fans, but they probably have the cheapest owner in sports. Like, we have United going out and spending, City going out and spending, Liverpool are now spending on Van Dijk. This guy is struggling to get any. Like they made one transfer this year, but apart from that, the past 2 3 years they've not been getting in any value into their like team, and
Thing
it's
is,
basically
where did
it's
all the bail money go?
like the Bale money was basically spent on like
New
I don't even
stadium?
know.
Exactly.
It was using the new stadium, and this is kind of ridiculous that like all you have to show for all your talent, because this becomes a kind of like no offense, but in basketball reference, like what the Sixers did, kind of where they didn't use their assets appropriately to build a squad or a dynasty. Instead,
Mm-hmm.
they just spent it like recklessly on
That they-
on various players. So and but in this case, they're not recklessly spending it. The money's just there, but they don't want to spend it.
You guys
Yeah,
traded. You guys traded Carson Edwards, by the way. The dude's balling right now.
yeah, he seems really well.
Yeah.
But we got Matisse
Well, anyway, transitioning from this, we enough negativity about yeah, top six teams, they do have bad years. I can relate. Chelsea had that one shitty year, 15-16. But I want to ask, it's pretty much set in stone that the top three of the Premier League is going to be Liverpool, Man City, and most likely the third will be Chelsea. But who do you think is taking first place this year? Is it going to be Liverpool finally, or will City somehow make a comeback?
Chelsea is not guaranteed third because you also have
Oh, yes, we are.
you have Arsenal, Leicester, Crystal Palace, Burnley, West Ham, who are all within 3 points of you.
Did you just say
You guys aren't
Leicester?
even third right now. Chelsea's fifth right now. Arsenal is third.
No. So
You just said Leicester, Burnley, and West Ham, by the way.
I feel like this is like the start of the season, minus honestly, as the season progresses, the bigger clubs do get better because they have better talent in general. I feel like the top three will be Man City, Liverpool.
But the gap is enormous. The gap
Gap
is
is enormous.
enormous already between Liverpool and everybody else. It looks too big.
I mean,
Yeah, it's an 8 point gap between first and second place.
as painful as this is to say, I promise not to make fun of me for that, but I think Liverpool's taking it on this.
Liverpool's winning. Liverpool will probably take revenge for what happened. That's what's gonna happen.
And I think they're the team that have put the most in the last 3 4 years. They've consistently played well in the Champions League in the league. They've got it bad luck. I mean, come on, I talk about slipping. About all about
Yeah, that was the worst
That-
moment of my life.
Yeah.
that.
Hey, the slip was the best moment of my life.
I think it'll be close, but it'll be Liverpool's year.
It probably will be.
I think obviously I think Liverpool's gonna win, but I also think Liverpool was in the lead last year for a lot of time. Everyone thought Liverpool was gonna win. We slipped up. City came in. City ended up winning by 1 point. So I think City does have the squad depth to make a comeback. It's just about whether Liverpool manage to keep this up and whether City can actually make the comeback happen and at a much
I think
last season.
I think the crucial things for Liverpool to sort of maintain their position towards the end of the season is that, first of all, keeping your players healthy. That's been an issue in the past few seasons, especially your core midfield. You want to keep them healthy. You want to keep Firmino healthy. And then also you want to... Yeah, I mean, Salah's usually a healthy player, but it's more so to do the fact that, I feel like this season Salah's passing a lot more. He's not as big of a goal-scoring threat as he was the past few seasons. So...
That's because Mane... Isn't that because Mane and they're all scoring?
That is true, but
Liverpool's front three, everyone there can score. Our midfield, most of them can score. It's our attacking talent is.
That's why for me, if you can keep your main guys healthy, if you can keep your core healthy, you have decent depth, and if you can maintain this form towards the end of the season and not slip up, then you should be fine. Your schedule is looking pretty decent towards the end of the season, so you should be fine, I think.
Yeah, I think if Liverpool's willing to sacrifice not playing the main 11, the cups, the Carabao Cup or cups, small cups that are basically inconsequential, then I think down the stretch, if you have that healthy team, then
I think they should focus on the Champions League and the Premier League pretty much this season.
I agree.
What should Liverpool what happens to Arsenal now?
Arsenal? I mean,
I'm saying Arsenal comes fourth.
Arsenal finished fourth as usual. Like, what's new? But
And
speaking of,
it's
we were speaking about Tottenham earlier. We were speaking about their, sort of unfortunate situation with their inactivity in the transfer window. So, what do you think about the rumors that Mourinho possibly tries to get a job there?
I mean, at this point, we all thought Pochettino was going to replace Mourinho. That didn't happen.
That's the funny
Now
thing,
the
right?
opposite's happening.
How much can change in like a few months? Where like
Yeah,
Pochettino's
it's been like 6 months, and we've already got going the other way.
Exactly. So I mean, rumors will be rumors. But one particular incident that's bugging me. Of course, we're at international break this week. So there's been racism incidents again. These have been happening for the past year in football.
I think before we get into it, FIFA really has to find a way to make it bad for home fans and home teams to do this, because I think it's disgusting, especially at this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you also have people like Sterling who have talked about it so much. The whole England team, I think before this international break, there's agreed as a team that if someone was racially all going to walk off together. So I mean, it's something that definitely has to be addressed, and I don't know why it's still going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you want value for money, go to a game and have fun, but don't lose control of what you're saying.
I agree.
You're going to a game, you're going for an entertainment product, but don't lose yourself and don't lose whatever value you have, because what can happen is you could be in a whole lot of trouble. Like this is for those that do the screaming and they yell out racial slurs. Like Balotelli, for instance, Raheem Sterling, like they are these. They come from Sterling comes from Jamaica, I believe, and Balotelli comes from Ghana, and they constantly get they face racism, and to be honest, it's really ridiculous on part of the fans, because you're going there to watch the game and not to have a political agenda. If you do, if you do keep it to yourself, there's no need to yell it out, because people they will take offense to this, and you could be in a whole lot.
I think let Arch describe the situation sometimes. It's pretty interesting.
Like, for me, I think the situation is the fact that before I want to talk about this, I kind of want to talk about this stuff that I faced as a Chelsea fan last season, right? So, I mean, not just last season, even this season, Tammy Abraham was receiving a lot of racial slurs by fans, not just our own home fans, but opposing fans as well. So I think the entire concept of racially abusing fans pretty much only exists amongst middle-aged, really old-fashioned football fans in England who are used to white football players dominating. So I think that's the entire premise of this. In the past few, apart from Pele, there haven't been too many influential. I mean, of course, Pele was South American, but there haven't been too many influential Black European footballers in history. You can look at Eusebio a little bit, but in terms,
maybe Henry. That's it.
Yeah, that's talking in terms of this decade, right? So I mean, towards the history of football, there haven't been too many influential Black football players who have sort of risen the sport to what it is now, and I think that's where this racism issue comes from. But it's definitely something that FIFA needs to consider into their fair play rules, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be much stricter punishment, and I think if you look at this incident in particular, the England-Bulgaria game, at halftime you had the Bulgarian captain going to the fans, going to their stand, and basically begging them to stop being racist, to stop doing what they were doing, just to sort of intimidate the English players. The fact that you have your captain who has to beg the audience, it just shows how extreme it has become. And you even have I think it was the Bulgarian goalkeeper who who after the game said, yeah, the English players were overreacting, there was no racism, it was just the normal boos and all you hear from opposition fans. You can't have that sort of negligence in a team. Exactly. When you have one player who's begging, you have another player who says it didn't exist.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the manager said that England shouldn't be talking about racism, because I alluded to the fact that England also had a lot of racism and as well. So which I find particularly interesting because instead of addressing, he didn't condemn the fans, but like he was like threw it out on Gary on Southgate, and Southgate was about Lebron. There are unfortunate circumstances which we will take to FIFA, but if you're not going to talk about anything else other than football can happen. So I think in terms of diffusing it before it escalated, but FIFA should have stepped in, FIFA should have made a statement, FIFA should have punished the whole fans, and even the management of Bulgaria. I feel like it's still surprising how lack of action FIFA still has considering the fact that it's racism which has affected the game for many, many years now.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. And with that being said, I think we've come to a conclusion for what we have to talk in today's podcast. So I'd like to thank anyone who has watched for staying so long until the end of the episode, or heard, considering our the name of our podcast itself. But we promise to improve our audio quality in future episodes. And that being said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.